Welcome to The White Side of the Brain, a podcast dedicated to exploring the vital yet often overlooked world of white matter. I'm your host, Anna Casal, and in each episode, we dive deep into the science behind the 60% to 80% of the human brain that plays a crucial role in its function, development, and aging. At BrainTel, we are pioneers in the measure, quantification, and normalization of white matter, offering a cutting-edge software solutions and medical devices that are transforming brain care through precise, objective data. Today, we are joined by Ioannis Tarnanas. He's the founder of Altoida, a pioneering company that develops digital biomarkers for Alzheimer's disease and cognitive disorders using cutting-edge technology. His background includes a strong track record in building innovative digital health solutions and leading teams across highly regulated environments. He is recognized for its contribution to healthcare technology. While today, the pharmaceutical industry is showing a great interest in Alzheimer's disease, sparking a wave of research and innovation with hopes for breakthrough treatments. This ecosystem is truly buzzing with activity, and today we'll dive into the advances that are bringing us closer and closer to new solutions for this complex condition. Ioannis himself brings a lot of expertise in software as a medical device and has been deeply involved in exploring how biomarkers, including white matter imaging, can transform the understanding of Alzheimer's. Thank you very much, Ioannis Tarnanas, for being here today with us. It's an honor for us. So let's get started. You're collaborating with the Global Brain Health Consortium on research involving DTI and brain imaging. Can you share more about this partnership and the goal of the project?
Yeah, thank you, Anna, very much for having me here today. I'm actually an Atlantic Fellow with the Global Brain Health Institute that is affiliated to Trinity College Dublin and UCSF, University of San Francisco in the US. Our goal is actually to remove the discrepancies in brain health, and we do this with innovating and by collecting lots of data, including DTI, as you mentioned. The focus of the project is actually to assess brain age, and we are collecting lots of recordings from DTI, from fMRIs, from EEGs, and we are basically collecting longitudinal data in an effort to see how the brain age is changing. And my particular area of focus is brain resilience. So how the brain is building a reserve to be able to compensate for the effects of neurodegeneration, any kind of neurodegeneration. It can be agnostic, not only Alzheimer's.
Great. So can you share with us how the digital biomarkers and DTI are contributing to deeper insight into the progression of neuronal diseases or like Alzheimer's disease, maybe?
Yeah, so as part of this effort, we are also integrating a digital device that I have created as a founder of a company named Altoida. And this medical device is actually collecting lots of different features, lots of different domain scores that are coming from an exercise that is quite unique in its inception. We are using augmented reality. And by using augmented reality, we are instructing people to hide 3 items in real space and then find them back. And while you are doing that, we are collecting lots of different information regarding how much time did it take you to complete the exercise, but also how were you performing in terms of any errors, any gait information, any abilities to be accurate or be smooth with your motion. So all those things, a total of about 200 to 300 features, are what are going into creating the so-called digital biomarkers. And our digital biomarkers are essentially a signature that is mapping your brain network function. So we are then comparing what we are collecting with this medical device to whatever has been collected by neuroimaging, for example, like from DTI or fMRI or EEG. and we are looking to see if there are any correlations. So if you do this for a long period of time, like this cohort in Spain that I'm involved with, we have been collecting data for about 42 months now. Every year they come for a repeat measurement, and then we can see if any of our metrics or any of our scores are actually predictive of any outcomes in the follow-up visits. So, for example, some of them might have developed already dementia from an original MCI stage. And then we try to see by using machine learning, like decision trees or like small vector machines, which of the features from either the medical device or from the neuroimaging are most predictive. So it's basic research for now, but we are hoping that this research is going to inform improvements in either the medical device domain or in the way that we're analyzing neuroimaging.
Okay, very interesting. As you know, BrainTel is specialized in white matter measuring. So could you explain from your research perspective, what is the role of white matter in brain health and why does white matter matter?
Yeah, that's a super good question. I believe it's a lot underestimated currently, the effects of white matter areas burden that are affecting brain health. So as you know, there is the concept of vascular MCI. Vascular MCI is a specific kind of MCI that is sometimes mixed with amyloid pathology or tau pathology in the brain, and they are both interacting together. They might lead to different progression at the end or different trajectory of the progression. We are seeing such data in this particular cohort from Spain that I was talking about previously. So we did collect a couple of TTI images there, and we are seeing that people that do have some vascular white matter pathologies as well, they are converting to dementia earlier. So that's already an indication of difference in terms of how do you develop the disease potentially in the future. And what I'm particularly interested about personally is a way to combine whatever tools, for example, BrainTel has for looking into such white matter pathologies and whatever tools we are bringing into the market with our digital medical device, and then see if this combination is better than just one of the tool alone, basically. That could be an interesting area of research for us.
Can you tell more about your journey in developing digital biomarkers for cognitive disorders? Maybe the story? What did lead you there?
So I was driven from personal reasons, right? My grandma had Alzheimer's. I was caring for her. I was living for her for about 12 years. And during those 12 years of living with her, I was observing how she was operating in everyday life, performing things like cooking, cleaning the house, going shopping, taking transportation, what we call today activities, complex activities of daily living. And I was observing signs of impairment, essentially, at those activities long before she had a diagnosis of mild cognitive impairment or something being wrong in her brain, essentially. So what I wanted to do is basically create a solution based on my basic degree or a technology that would be able to objectively measure such impairments in the complex activities of daily life. Now, that work was pioneering for the time because that was in early 2000, and nobody was looking at anything besides memory back then for Alzheimer's. But essentially, those are more deficits in function. So I was basically building functional biomarkers based on digital measures, essentially. Today, we know that indeed, in reality, functional deficits come earlier than memory. And if you look at the disease continuum, all those proteins that become rogue in Alzheimer's, like the amyloid or the tau, they express themselves first with some functional deficits. And if you have a technology that is sensitive enough to measure those sensitive that we call micro errors or micro movements, essentially with a very accurate and ecologically valid tool that is both short, it doesn't take too much time to complete, and it's also very user-friendly. Then you might have a screening mechanism that can be utilized at scale. So basically, that was my motivation. I mean, I wanted to have a screening mechanism at scale. I was inspired by my grandma. And from 2000 till now, it's basically 24 years of very long journey, trying to secure financing, trying to pass through the regulatory pathway, make innovation, build a company. So essentially, this is how long it takes from basic research to kind of making a product to the market.
Thank you for sharing this story, this personal story. But we can understand your motivation now behind all the work you're doing. Now, looking at the future, how do you see the future of these biomarkers evolving, and particularly for early detection, as you say, interesting in this way, and the intervention and the treatment maybe of this kind of disease?
Yeah, so Altoida, the company that I founded, is currently en route to become the first adjunct diagnostic with the FDA for MCI, that's mild cognitive impairment, of course, or MCI with a high amyloid likelihood. So I believe part of the future, the short-term future at least, is to become an adjunct diagnostic for this condition, 510K in the US. And then in general, or in more long-term future, I would say that we need to capitalize the vision of precision neuroscience. So precision neuroscience means not just MCI or MCI with amyloid likelihood, but potentially MCI with tau pathology likelihood, or MCI with white matter pathologies, as we were discussing before, or MCI with asynuclein even. So basically building upon different digital signatures that can be disease agnostic, doesn't have to be, for example, one specific signature for Alzheimer's or one specific signature for frontal temporal or Lewy body or whatever, but basically anchored to biology. And we all know currently that there is this big debate in Alzheimer's, right? There is the debate of whether you look at biology first and you define a disease purely from a biological point of view, or as Bruno Dubois and others are doing in Europe, you also take account clinical symptoms and clinical phenotype. And basically you start speaking about dementia once someone is exhibiting some signs of neurodegeneration first, right? My opinion for the future is basically you need both. My perspective, of course, is that you need both. And if you manage to combine both biological inputs as well as clinical phenotypes that could be driven by digital biomarkers, then you will have a more complete picture that could be used, of course, as a diagnostic.
And to follow the treatments, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, the diagnostic can also be used for monitoring. So as long as you have a score of a condition that is based on biology and on clinical phenotypes, then you can certainly follow up this phenotype pretty much like an endpoint and judge the efficacy of treatments, right? I believe that's an even bigger value than just a diagnostic, because diagnostic is just one time.
Of course.
But such an endpoint would both accelerate development of new drugs as well as assist for the patient-reported outcomes. I mean, the patient-reported outcomes, one big innovation from the tools that we are creating is that we don't just collect responses on a paper for questionnaire, right? I mean, so far what has been happening in Alzheimer's, people are asking the patients questions, and then they are responding certain scores in a piece of paper, and then they give you minimal score 25 or 20 or 12. But this doesn't say much. Is this person able to walk his dog out of the house? Is this person able to take a taxi or a bus? Is this person able to draw or to play with his son or his grandson? I think those are the meaningful aspects of health. And if you have a technology that is utilizing, for example, augmented reality and is assessing how you are actually performing in real life, this is more directly linked to those meaningful aspects of life and not just, scores. I believe that's my motivation, and that's why I'm so passionate about providing such tools both to developed countries like US, Europe, Asia, but also under development, for example, people in Africa or Latin America.
Okay, interesting. So, can we talk about the technological advancements in general, because you're involved in that? Do you think they are improving lives of patients living with Alzheimer's disease and other cognitive disorders? How these technological advancements can help them to live better?
Yeah, thanks, Anna. So it all depends on the patient journey, right? Right
Of course.
now, there are at least two main pain points for the patient journey. One big pain point is timely diagnosis. So, as you know, from the time that you start experiencing some complaints until the time that you go to the doctor and you receive an actual diagnosis, this can take years. It's like 1 to 4 years in general, according to the research. So one main pain point that we could improve is basically having the opportunity to just use a tool that could be registered as a diagnostic according to the FDA and regulators in Europe, and just have the diagnosis immediately, basically. So that will be a big improvement. That's the vision. And the other vision is once you get the improvement, then how do you know that you are actually doing better and that your drug treatments or other interventions that are non-pharmacological are actually helping you? So this is where I speak about the potential to have high frequency assessments as an endpoint that will be assessing ecologically valid everyday activities. And then you will have basically a way to monitor yourself pretty much with no practice effects, with no learnings, as long as the digital biomarkers are immune to practice effects, that you could take potentially even weekly. So just like you do today for your weight, if you want to control your weight, because dementia is a chronic disease now, it's considered to be a chronic disease and it needs to be managed. But to be managed, you need to have tools that are objective enough, accurate enough, and precise enough to give you a reading that you can follow through longitudinally. So that's my vision. My vision is both a vision from a scientific point of view and also from a business point of view for all available digital biomarker tools.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer. Very interesting. If there's one message or key insight you would like to share with the listeners to take away about the research on Alzheimer's and digital health, what will it be?
Yeah, my main message is basically I would try to always combine the so-called biomarkers. So we know today there is a big emphasis on the biological biomarkers, which of course is a big improvement, right? I mean, previously we were using PET scans for amyloid. Now there is a big effort to go into blood-based markers. So we were already seeing some innovation there. But my message is unless it's combined with other digital biomarkers, for example, for function or for clinical phenotypes, then the picture is still going to be incomplete. We need to start combining and creating a holistic view of one person's health. Because quite frankly, I mean, there are plenty of examples of people that would be full of amyloid in their brain and they still function quite normal, even at the age of 92 or, or longer. So, I believe the field needs to become less focused on biology. And my hope and my desire is that those digital biomarker platforms that are combining biological and digital are going to be the next evolutionary step when it comes to criteria and when it comes to diagnosis. And I believe that we are getting there. It's just taking some time.
That's very exciting from our point of view at Brain Health, really. Yeah, we believe so. Who do you think we should invite here as a guest in our podcast? Do you have some suggestions of professionals or researchers or businessmen?
Yeah. So I have some colleagues. I have a colleague in the GBHI, the Global Brain Health Institute. He is a professor from Argentina that is currently also a visiting professor in Ireland. His name is Agustin Ibanez. He's the one who is pioneering the work with brain clocks. He published in Nature Medicine recently. And the main focus of this publication was that it really matters where you are born. So people that are born at under developed countries or regions like Africa or Latin America, they might have a little bit more impaired brain age clocks than others from the developed world. So I really believe he can contribute a lot to what you are doing as well in brain tel with his knowledge and expertise, and that's from a science point of view. And then from a business point of view, I don't know really. I would really advise you to look into any FDA representatives. I mean, those are not really startups, but there is a big movement currently at the FDA for development of digital endpoints, and they have a lot of new tools that a lot of people might not be aware of. So I can suggest a couple of names there that would be useful for you to think about.
Yes, we think that the industry interest around Alzheimer is growing a lot. We can see a lot of startups that are bought by big pharmaceutical groups, for example. What do you think is driving this surge of attention? Why people are very interested now in 2024 in this subject?
Yeah, basically the emergence of drugs, right? I mean, until a couple of years ago, there were no disease-modifying treatments at all. But now we have at least two. And this is motivating people to innovate when it comes to screening and diagnosis as well.
So, thank you, Ioannis. Thanks a lot for sharing your innovative approach to these diagnostics through digital biomarkers. Thank you very much. And I think that your work is very inspiring to us at Brain Health. I'm happy to have you here in the podcast. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
To our listeners, we hope today's episode has opened your eyes to the transformative power of digital health technology in brain health. As the fight against Alzheimer gains momentum, tools like those developed by Ioannis will play a crucial role in early detection and treatment. Stay tuned for more conversation with leaders at the forefront of brain health and neuroscience. Until next time, this has been The White Side of the Brain, where we continue to explore the unseen to better understand our human brain.